I bet it's going to show my hand. Okay, can I have everybody's attention for a minute? If that's too loud, I will hold this further away if I don't see those here. Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to Ohav Emeth's 29th annual dinner, or semi-annual. I'm happy to say that this year we have a great set of honorees, and we have a really outstanding committee that put in countless hours. So I'm going to sit back and try to take some meaningful pictures and video while letting everyone else on the committees do their job. And without further ado, I call upon our president, Michael Garber, to say a few introductory words.
Yeah, really. Thank you.
This is a lot better, easier with a stand. On behalf of the officers and board of directors of the Congregation of Emeth, I would like to welcome you to our 29th annual dinner. A dinner celebrating the magnificent accomplishments of Joe and Heidi Friedman and Raphael Wenger. Here's credit for all of you and to the Wenger family. Every year, we have people who want to come to our dinner, but they can't because of various families involved. Even our own members, which although fantastic for them and their dear friends, is really not so great visual dinner. For instance, last year we had about 150 people at the dinner.
It's too loud. But I can't.
Hold it further away.
I'll hold it further away. We had about 150 people at the dinner. The rabbi suggested having the dinner during Spir Omer, thereby avoiding potential conflicts. We did have concern that one of the differences of an OA dinner, as opposed to all other organizational dinners, is that not only do we have presentations and speeches, like everybody else, we also have dancing and singing at our annual shul dinner. The rabbi suggested that we replace our band with a Chinese auction. Eugene, the dinner chair, and I agreed to test it out and see how it went. Now, Baruch Hashem, it seems to have gone very, very well. Michelle Manzo, Kaya's sister, even before Kaya was asked or even thought to be an honoree tonight, volunteered to chair tonight's Chinese auction. We picked today, May 4th, to have the annual dinner, mostly because we wanted to keep it within Spir Omer. And next Sunday, as all the mothers and relatives know, is Mother's Day. The week after is Lag BaOmer, which starts all the families in hope that we're trying to avoid. At first, this thought seemed really good on paper, but wasn't so good in reality. We sent out the invitations around Purim time, which is a month before Pesach, as we all know. On the first day of Chol Hamoed, we had a grand total of 44 reservations. The first day of Chol Hamoed, just keep it in mind, was only 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks to go and 44 reservations. Eugene and I, honestly, were getting worried. And getting more gray hair by the day, which is something neither one of us really need more of. We guaranteed we'd have 150 to the caterer. And unlike other shul events, just covering our costs is not sufficient for a shul dinner. The shul, as you all know, relies on this dinner as well as other fundraisers for a substantial portion of our annual budget, including youth groups, air conditioning, lighting, and even Kiddush on Shabbos morning. The rabbi said, don't worry, I guarantee we will have at least 150 people, right? I wish I shared his optimism and hoped we would hit the same total as last year, which was about 140-ish. And I told him that if we hit 150, I would do a little jig.
What should we sing? What should we sing?
Whatever you want. Confident while being nervous that I would not have to demonstrate that the only jig I know is the yeshiva shuffle, which is really hard to do by yourself. I gave the entire membership list to a group of people to call, and initial calls were made about 10 days ago. And thanks to these callers, the numbers increased slowly. The rabbi and I met for several hours last Sunday morning, and we agreed to recall all the members from whom we had not heard previously. Again, the majority of our members. I again had mixed emotions. I was scared that I would have to do a solo yeshiva shuffle, and nervous that we wouldn't hit our guaranteed minimum. The rabbi, Eugene, and I made more calls, and the numbers kept on going up. First we had 80, then we had 120. Then in the middle of last week, when we were meeting with the caterer, whom we thanked, we had 140, 10 away from our minimum. And I told the rabbi, Eugene, that I did a practice solo yeshiva shuffle. And after Sharon was done laughing, she said, "You can't do that." So I called the rabbi, Eugene, and I told them that if we hit our 150, they're dancing with me. Last night, when Karen, Eugene, Sharon Gordon, and myself all met in Eugene and Karen's basement, we saw that we had 168. Thank you all. So, Rabbi, I warned you I'd be doing this. I ask you and Eugene and anybody that would like to join us for one very, very brief yeshiva shuffle in the corner. You can sing whatever you want.
Sing something. Come on, guys.
Rabbi, even more passion. Our rabbi could perhaps build his shul in our shul while waiting for shilas and shuvas, giving shirim and drushes and Shabbos morning, and an occasional dance, all of which he does as well as anyone. However, he and his rebbetzim do so much more, including proving to excel in bowling every year. Maybe it's time to check in for PEDs. Making phone calls for shul dinners, constantly having guests for Shabbos, coming up with really good ideas, and most importantly, always being ready when we're in need. It gives me great honor to call on Rabbi Kalman for words of greeting.
So it's not often that I'm asked to give a song and dance, but I am greatly humbled and honored with the beautiful words of our wonderful president, and it's just wonderful to be here. But before I begin, I would be remiss if I did not mention Kvod Moreno Rav Kamenetsky, who is such a bracha, and I give my eternal appreciation to him for being such a wonderful help to me throughout the years, and a guide and a rebbe. Kvod Rabbanim, Choshka Rabbanim who are here, Rabbi Lubin, his rebbetzin that honors us, and of course our president, Michael Garber. Again, I noticed that we have past presidents who are here, Alan Borg, Lori Cassie, Stein, members of the board, members and friends of Ohav Emeth. And I just want to give my deep appreciation to Eugene Rosenthal, who really, thinks of something, as he said it so beautifully in the journal, it doesn't happen by itself, and it happens with dedication, with emunah, and with a lot of davening, and yeshar koach to you. And to Natalie Leifman, a person of terrific talent and poise, and such things that are bundled into such a young person is just a tremendous, tremendous nachas, and yashikaya to you. And to the ladies of our Chinese auction, first of all to Michelle, who is like a co-honoree here, because anything that Joe and I do, she's the co-pilot, that's it. And thank you for everything you've done, but to Sharon Hyden, to Sherry Gordon, together with her lovely husband, Michael, to Georgie London, Freddie Zarni, and of course, again to Michelle. And we just are very blessed to have a shul secretary, an administrator of our office, Elise Burke, who does such a wonderful job. I deem this a great honor and privilege always to be asked to give words of Torah, give words of Mazel Tov, and most of all, welcome to everyone. And it is really a honor that I have, and I can only say that it really, what a few days that makes a difference. Last Wednesday, I was with members of our community and members of our own shul who went 1,000 strong with NORPAC to Washington. And there we heard various members of Congress, important members, and we heard from a senator from Texas who gave a definition that I somehow resonated with me. And he welcomed us to Washington, D.C., the place of politics, and he defined for us what politics mean. And politics is from the Latin poly, which means numerous, which many, abundant, and ticks, which is defined as blood-sucking insects. And right away, I could appreciate that from Washington. But I can honestly say that just a few days later, after being in Washington, it was very important to be an advocate for Israel, especially this time. But I can say wholeheartedly that our shul is poly, but it's nothing to do with ticks, Rahman al-Islam. It has everything to do with poly Torah, poly mitzvos, poly tefillah, poly tzedakah, and poly chesed. I have the great privilege of being the rabbi for the most wonderful shul that has so much of Torah, so much of mitzvah, so much of tefillah, so much of tzedakah, and so much of chesed, that I'm privileged to have a front seat and to witnesses of all of the various wonderful people in our shul. And when I speak of Torah learning, not only do I talk, I'm speaking about the various Magidei Shiurim that we're so privileged to hear from, but also the rabbis of the Kollel that we're so honored to have here and to have in our shul throughout the year to learn Torah and to enhance the spirituality and enhance our entire community. And we just want to welcome you and give you a tremendous yashar koyach and thank you. This is the perfect week for such a celebration because it's a week that we are so tremendously blessed to celebrate the great gift of Eretz Yisrael that was given to all of us. And this celebration and this week we all stand together to celebrate our Ohav Emeth, our beloved Ohav Emeth, our shul. And it's the perfect week to celebrate our shul together with Eretz Yisrael, because this is the parsha that we will be reading in the Torah of Parshas Bahar. And Parshas Bahar that speaks about Har Sinai and refers to the mitzvos of Eretz Yisrael, the mitzvos of the Holy Land, and that it is associated and identified and specifically mentioned, those mitzvos, with Har Sinai. And the great first Lubavitcher Rebbe, because that's where we are, right? So I got to talk about the great Baal HaTanya, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he explained that the reason why the mitzvos of Eretz Yisrael and specifically the mitzvahs of Shemitah, and I think even this week, why it's so closely associated with Har Sinai is because Har Sinai was unique, and Har Sinai is important because Har Sinai represents that moment that we were standing there, Ish Echad B'Lev Echad, that there was that wonderful, wonderful event of Achdus, that Jews were all together. The Balatanya, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, you hear Rabbi Goodman? All right. That the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that it has to do with Achdus. Eretz Yisrael and our keeping Eretz Yisrael is Achdus, and you go to Eretz Yisrael and you will see anything anybody wants. If you are interested in economics, one of the finest economies in the world is now found in Eretz Yisrael. If you're interested in science, you will find science, the greatest scientists and the greatest innovations in the world in medicine and medical innovations. Everything is in Eretz Yisrael. And in Eretz Yisrael, the greatest Lomdei Torah, you will find